Witchy and Weird podcast.
Hi, Witchy and Weird. I just wanted to pop in before the episode starts to give you a little update on what's happening over here. So I have decided to swap episodes to drop every Monday now, so you can start your week off right with Witchy and Weird shenanigans and yours truly. So get ready to see those in your feed every Monday as opposed to every Friday. Hello, Witchy and Weird. Today I'm joined by Elia, also known as selflovetribute on the social media. Their pronouns are they, them, theirs. Elia is a light-skinned, Black, trans, non-binary, ancestral wound alchemist, witch, and artist living and working between Marseille and Berlin. They work with divination arts such as Reiki, tarot, astrology, and hypnosis. Drawing from ancestral knowledge, their practice is rooted in weaving ancient and modern practices into tangible healing tools that are in support of ancestral healing, radical self-love, and collective liberation. This practice is grounded in an intimate relationship with the land and the more than human spirit, ancestry, and the elements. As they're always reflecting on their longing for home, their practice centers the sacred work of imagination and fantasy to reconcile with the many wounds left by displacement, nostalgia, and a longing for a home they have never known. Hello, welcome.
Hi, nice to see you. Thank
you as well. I'm like really excited to have this interview. I think you're the first person that we're interviewing that has made like their own deck. So that's really cool. So I'm like definitely excited to talk about that more. But before we get into that, could you like share your like story? Like, how did you get to this like amazing magical place of like ancestral healing and making your own deck and all of these things?
Yeah, sure. It's always complicated, right, to kind of tell your story of like how and why, because there's a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to explain truly, I think. I find myself like mentioning a lot of when I introduce myself to people, mentioning that I'm a practitioner of miracles and awe and care, because there's so many, the reasons why I'm here really is about care, because there's so many people who help me out, whether it's like ancestry, the elements, the land, or actual people in my life. I feel like it's also really much because of them that I've been able to create this work, and I'm capable to breathe easier even today. So I feel like my story is a story of care, basically, of people who have made me possible. And I'm always thinking about ancestry, but also the people around me and the people ahead of me, and the people outside of planet Earth also, and like whatever the case might be. So and I think it's a lot of trauma, to be honest. I think it's your story. I feel like a lot of people bring to the world the medicine that they really need. And for me, that was also my story, that I had a difficult childhood, and I was just kind of realizing very soon that it was not the way to go. And so I just decided, okay, how is, I can decide to heal. How can I do that? So I think that's why I'm kind of, I've been practicing since then, healing.
So what is the thing that you're bringing to the world that you need most?
I find these days it's a lot. I always tell people that trauma is relational. Trauma happens in relationship. And so healing has to happen there too. And I find myself, especially now, just creating relationships that really heal me so deeply. And having interaction, even the smallest interaction, trying to find the healing, the joy, the deep respect for everybody that I encounter. And that for me has been the medicine that I've always needed, is to be in relationship, like conscious, deep healing kind of relationship with people, with the land, with everything around me, with myself. Yeah, I feel like that's the medicine that I need and that I'm trying to bring to the world.
That's awesome. I like that. Yeah, I like the idea that like you're your idea of spirituality and healing and trauma, it's very like, it feels very like rooted and grounded. And a lot of people, I feel like, take a long time to even get to the point to understand that it is relationship, it is things outside of us. Like in the last episode with the Aphrodisian, which we were talking about, like spirituality isn't really spirituality if it's not rooted in some like cause or something outside of yourself. And how you're just like immediately coming in and you're like, yeah, everything is in relationship with other things. And that
Yeah,
like we can't just do it all on our own. We're doing it like me with something else, me like seeing the contrast between something else. So I really
absolutely.
like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel also a lot of my practice is rooted in social justice. I don't believe in healing without social justice. Absolutely. I've been in so many healing spaces that are well said to be healing, but are really just gaslighting in the end for Black people, trans people, people of color, migrant people, you know, whatever the case might be. And so I feel like this is really the root of everything, even if, you know, capitalism has kind of like commodified the wellness industry into this, you know, the self being this atomized thing that is just trying to heal itself on its own. Is just absolutely
Yeah.
not possible just because, again, you know, trauma happens in relationship. And so healing has to happen there too. We can name things when we're alone, you know, you can understand,
Yeah.
oh, that's what happened to me. And that's for sure healing. But at the end of the day, you have to be in relationship with yourselves, with others, with the land to really feel the healing somatically, right? So, yeah, that's really important to me to always, you know, even self, I always define the self as still in relationship with others because I wouldn't be Black if it wasn't for white people. I wouldn't be tall if it wasn't for smaller people. You know, we're always in construct to each other and we're social beings. So that's kind of our um, biggest, you know, most precious thing ever is that we need each other. We attach to other people to survive, you know. So I always try to bring it back to people.
Hmm. So how do you, I know that this is like, it's not one answer fits all type of thing, but how do you help, like what would you say for giving advice for people who are wanting to start healing and maybe haven't thought like, oh, it's in relationship, like, but maybe it feels a little scary or uncomfortable to like be in relationship with somebody. I know like depending upon your trauma, you could say like I'd never want to be around this one type of person. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious, like what other kinds of relationships or like small ways that they can start to like heal through relationship.
Well, the first thing that I always that I always say to people is that like when you decide to heal, first of all, this is amazing just because, you know, trauma comes back from 14 generations before you. And so when you decide to heal, you don't only heal for the people around you who don't have the space, the time, the energy, the money to heal. You also heal for the 14 generations before you and 14 generations ahead of you. And just that is like, you might not realize it, but it's just huge. That's for sure. And the second thing that I always tell people is that, you know, healing is somatic, meaning, and the soma is this Greek word that is seeing us as this living organism. So, you know, like science sees the body as just this machine, quote unquote. But we're much bigger than that and much more complex than that. We are, you know, a living organism that has relationship that, you know, so the soma sees us as the physical body, emotional body, intellectual body, the relationships that we have, the actions we take, the actions we don't take. And so we are all of this at once happening right now. We're all growing hair and nails, you know, right now. um, and so it's huge work of healing. It's unproductive. Society doesn't like that because you're not making money while you heal. Trust me. But it is absolutely fundamental to like, you know, changing to break cycles basically. And so I would say just start really small with your relationship here and now with people around you. And sometimes though that we kind of like try to go super far and big and wild, you know, but actually the relationship to your neighbors, to the people around you, to your siblings, to sometimes it's really hard, but to your parents sucks, but those are the situations that maybe you will find the most healing and potentially the avenues. But also, I want to say, and I want to be transparent, I don't have ties to my family anymore. So I'm not saying like push whatever happens. Absolutely not. Like you owe people respect, but you don't owe them harm. And so I really want to say that, also prioritize yourself. But I find that, and I think this is really also this blood supremacy. I don't believe in that so much. You can create chosen families, especially for queer people. We have like this thing of, chosen families that is so, so important to us. And I think that's where we can also heal so much of, securing relationship, feeling secure in relationships, being our true authentic self in relationships. So I would say like that's where you start. And also just being surrounded with people that potentially want you to heal and also want to heal with you and want to be accountable for their own healing process. That's really important too. Yeah.
Yeah, so much good stuff that you said. I struggle with the family piece too. So,
We
like
all
hearing,
struggle.
yeah, like it is, I think there is like, yeah, the blood supremacy, I think is like like a good way to put it, where it's like we're trained to feel like above all else, we owe everything to our family. And even if they're the ones that are like causing a lot of harm in our life and in our story, it can feel confusing and like shameful because we feel like that kind of sense of duty, but then we feel our own feelings at the same time. So I like that you're like, don't push yourself if
Yeah,
this doesn't
no.
feel right.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, like I said, you don't owe people harm, even when they've pushed you out of the vagine. Like, really, I think you don't owe people harm. Um, And I also truly believe that you can heal away from people who have harmed you, and you don't have to wait for them to say sorry and realize for you to, take accountability for your own healing. I think you deserve healing here and now. And if they never understand that, that's on them. But I think you shouldn't wait for them to just, take care of you. You deserve healing always, So that's really important. And that's why I said, like, I want to be transparent. I'm not talking to my family, and I'm also not expecting anymore for them to understand. Um, but I also understand that I have still my grief process to go through. I still have my rage process to go through. I still have all those emotions to go through. And I will be doing that on like without them, and that's possible. But I still want to be witnessed by other people, right? And that's where chosen family comes in. And I think it's important also to speak on that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point too that I've seen a lot of people. I think it's almost instinctual, like when we have harm with somebody, to seek to have the repair with that same person. And especially in that we're talking about like healing in relationship, some people might think like, okay, so if this person harmed me, I need to form relationship with them to heal it. And I love that you brought that up. Like, no, you don't actually need to heal with that same person who caused you harm, because they might not be ready to do the healing. They might not
Mm-hmm.
understand the harm that they caused you. So you can have a different relationship with somebody else or something else that gives you that healing and that peace. And you can leave that other person and their relationship just over there. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like also nature is so great for that, right? Like you have situations and relationships that have been really hurtful, and then you get into nature and that heals parts of you that you wouldn't be able to speak on. I feel like there's so many ways to also decentralizing humans is also so so healing sometimes. Like, yeah, we're taking a lot of space on planet Earth, but there's so many other relationships that you can create. And when you look at resilience and how resilience is built for people, nature comes in, relationship with animals comes in, like spirituality comes in. And so all those relationships, you don't have to be, in relationship with human beings. So it's not that you have to be forced with people, but also we all know, you like, unfortunately, you have to be in relationship with people too. And where I feel that we have the most agency maybe is to pick the people that want to heal with us, right? Instead of, being with people who potentially harm us and do not want to take accountability for what they've done.
Yeah, 100%. I love that so much. And I know like ancestral healing is like a big piece, and that's also like a place where you can do healing. Like I have had some powerful stuff. Like I did some grief healing with my cousin actually. She's like a grief counselor and all this stuff. And
Mm.
um it was around my wound with my mom, and like my great great grandma came through and like helped heal that. So
Wow.
like, I know that that is like a really powerful thing that can happen, but I know like ancestral healing is like a huge piece for you and your practice. So I'm curious, like, how do you define ancestral healing, or like what does that look like for you and or your clients?
Yeah. So because healing is by de facto something that will heal also generations before you, like I said before, I feel like all healing is ancestral in a way. And then of course you think about ancestry, and my focus, of course, is for displaced people, people who have gone through genocides, because that's the people that I serve, and including myself. And I haven't met my physically, or at least in this physical lifetime, I haven't met my grandparents on my African side, and I feel them very closely to me, but I haven't met them physically, and that's why I think it has been a huge part of my work, is to um, build those relationships, even if physically people tell you they're not here, you can't build relationship with them anymore. And I find that this is also such a powerful way to just, take back kind of like your history, and just saying like, that's my story. I'm going to make of my story what I want to make. And especially in times of like being confused or transitioning, there's so many times where I ask really, specifically to my grandparents, like, what should I do? And I've had amazing answers. And um, it really depends on people. It really looks different for people. And I feel that one of the things that I love doing the most is just creating rituals around that. Like you said, with your cousin, I find that creating ceremonies, creating rituals, just like in any other relationship, like you called your friends. Well, you can talk to the people that you want to talk to that are not here physically now. You can create altars for them, just to say like, I honor you, and I'm so happy and glad that you made me possible. Um, and I find that, yeah, this is so healing also to do that, because I mean, as a Black person, one of the things that I always, in somatics, you kind of know your three core needs, which are safety, dignity, and belonging. And I add to that ancestry or memory. And it's also a trauma to not know where you come from, to know that your people have been, going through genocide, are still going through genocide, and you don't really know how to connect to that. So it has been for me so, so, so powerful to do that through work, creations, through altars, ceremonies with other people. Just this kind of work, I think, is so, so, so important. Um, but with clients, it really depends, because I feel like I create some kind of like tailored ceremonies and rituals for people. And that's why I love my work, is that it's never the same. Like I never apply this like same thing for everybody. It's just really depending on the person in front of me, and what are their needs and what they feel comfortable with. And it's just always so magical, to be honest, because we're just, belonging is so important. Belonging to people that have made you possible is so, so healing. And knowing that you're not just, again, this atom alone, just going through this world. You're just part of like a lineage of so many people who are just so happy for you to be here, and are just giving you counsel every time you ask. It feels so much like so less lonely, to be in this body. So seeing this in clients also is so healing for me. Just seeing them bloom through that is incredible.
Yeah. And I like that you brought up creating like an avatar, because I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is like they're like, I don't know what they look like. There's no photos of them. I don't even know their name. Like there's tons of, I think, like obstacles that can get in the way of someone feeling like, am I connecting to the right person? Like, how do I know?
Yeah.
And I like that you can create just like a representation of them, because it really isn't. And I find this too, like as a psychic medium, like with clients, like it's not as important to know exactly what they look like or all these things. It's like important to know, like, to feel that they're there, and to like get familiar with that feeling of them, and working with them. Like they're not going to care if like you see their hair is the wrong color. Like
Mhm.
they're going to care that you're listening to them and like communicating with them, you know?
Yeah, and also something that I feel like Black people do a lot is that we see ancestry as Black people, basically, you know, like we talk about, for example, Bell Hooks has become an ancestor not so long ago. Audre Lorde is an ancestor, and I feel like it's so important to also understand that it doesn't have to be, again, like this blood supremacy that you can pick and be like, okay, I'm just going to be in connection with this person because it happened to me, for example, that, you know, I've had really complicated and complex relationship with my parents and just claim another person as my parent and be like, you know what, that's going to be my mother.
Yeah.
They're gonna mother me, and that really helped me through like really difficult time. So I just also want to, you know, open this, that again, it doesn't have to be, and it comes from, I want to name that it comes from also indigenous cultures that, you know, have councils, and you know, from time to time they decide, I want to be in relationship, I want this person to be my sibling, or I want this person to be whatever, because I feel like they have something to teach me. And I think it's important to get out of, again, this like blood supremacy thing. There's people, for example, we do this with friends, that you feel some friends are siblings, right? So why wouldn't we do that with other people, right? Just like, again, trying to stay away from those like very title blood supremacy kind of like, you know, colonialism based understanding of human beings and relationship. You know, there's people who, you know, I'm thinking about, for example, teachers that have huge impact on you as a child. And there's always some kind of people in your life that bring something that you're missing as a child, especially if you have like a complicated relationship with your parents or caregivers. And I find that those can be your, like, you know, the people that you claim as family or ancestry. And that's really important too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Like when I do work, like inner child healing work with clients, like if their parent relationship is really complicated, like we'll ask their inner child, like, do you want to have a new parent?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've done that with my inner child. Like my mom is a completely different person than my birth mom.
Same.
And I have a lot of clients and they'll pick like their inner child will pick like someone from pop culture, like Lizzie McGuire or something like that, that they're like, yes, I love them. I want them to be my mom, you know, like a mom from a TV show or something. And like I like that you bring, I feel like the stuff that you're talking about to you, maybe it's like normal because you're doing it all the time, but it definitely is very like pressure reducing. Like, don't stress. Like, it doesn't need to be this, it doesn't need to be that. Like, pick something that works for you, pick something that resonates with you, and that's okay. Like, it's about the relationship or like the knowledge or learning that you can gain from that person and you're receiving, as opposed to like, oh, but it's not my birth family or it's not this. And, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
it really makes it a lot more simple.
Yeah, and I think it's also really, I'm really against, you know, ownership of any kind. So land ownership and also children ownership. I think it's really a problem to, um, yeah, just like own people, basically. And when you think about, you know, like I'm thinking about Bell Hooks again, when she was talking about justice, she spoke about kids first and foremost, because it's, when you think about it, it's horrible that you're just like this tiny, you know, vulnerable human being, and you just completely depend on some other beings that you didn't choose at all,
Yeah.
that decided to put you here or not, and that you're completely under their power. And that's why it can become so abusive very quickly. You cannot escape those people. So I feel like just like also understanding that children shouldn't be owned by somebody. They should be protected and guided, yes, but not owned. um I think it's so important and part of our healing. And if people feel weird about this, I can tell you, first and foremost, it was actually introduced to me also from my hypnosis teacher, Shunai Cummins, and I was just like, this is weird, like having a new parent, what? And I let it sink, like everything that makes me a little bit like, you know, uncomfortable. I'm always thinking, okay, maybe I should just put the, like, plant the seed and just water it and just wait for it, you know? And then in the end, it just made complete sense for me. So I think also just, you know, land with the idea, just wait for it. If it makes you uncomfortable, maybe there's something that you can go into. Don't force yourself, but also, you know, if maybe that makes you uncomfortable, maybe that's because there's something inside of you that is interested also. So
Yeah. Yeah, I talk about that a lot with like trauma healing, that we in our mind think we want to feel something or want things to be that way, but our body is not used to it yet. So it might feel super uncomfortable if we're working towards it,
Absolutely.
trying to experience it. Like our body's like, I've never felt safety. Like this is bizarre. And they like push away from it. And it's just about understanding, like having that honesty, like what's actually going on right now. Like, okay, I'm having resistance to this. It's not a bad thing. It's just that it feels weird, like that. And I think when we're not aware that that's how the human body can work, it just
Mm-hmm.
creates so much pressure. It's like, why am I not okay with this? Oh, it's bad for me because I didn't have a good feeling, and I like that you
Yeah.
brought that up, that I like the visual of like, I'm just going to plant the seed and see what happens. Like, I love that.
Exactly. And I'm saying this also because of hypnosis, you kind of learn through neuroscience that new pathways are like your brain doesn't like that. So if it's new and if it was never traveled, your brain is going to be like, we're not going this way. We don't know the road. We don't know how to drive through this. And like everything, it's a practice. So of course, at first it sounds weird.
Yeah,
You would sound weird to other people, but you know what?
honestly.
Fuck that. If it makes you feel better, I always tell people and the power of imagination again is that imagination is so important in the work of healing. You have every right to imagine what makes you feel like you're closer to your path of healing.
Mm.
Um, and I think it's really important when you think about, for example, social justice, imagining new realities that are different where we feel free and we're not, oppressed for whatever reason. That's part of the liberation work, and so that's so important, so important to imagine new ways of being, relating, all of that. So I just always, especially tell people who live on the margins, Black people, trans people,
Yeah.
queer people of color, whatever. Yeah, do the work of imagination because right now we live in somebody else's imagination.
Mm.
We do, somebody else invented, race, somebody else invented gender, borders, all of that for one purpose, and we all know what it is. So why not just imagine new ways of being? That's really important.
I love that. Yeah, and I think I feel like when I was going through like my queer journey and my like non-binary like trans journey, like that was a piece that felt really hard to get past, right? Because it's like I grew up in a straight like cis world, and like so many times I felt like I'm an imposter, like these feelings like change all the time, so I must just be like faking it, like. And I just looked to like honestly like queer ancestors, transcestors, like those like. And I've seen they just give me like so much inspiration because it's like they literally are like the king and queens, like the royalty of imagining something that doesn't exist. Like they literally were like, I don't feel right. I'm just gonna start dressing how I want. I'm gonna start acting how I want. I'm imagining this persona, this person, and I'm embodying it. And that is just like so freeing and so nice. So like then I look at that, I'm like, okay, I can do that for me. If it doesn't feel right where I am right now, like I can create something new. Like that's why I changed my name. I was like, this name that I was just given randomly, like it doesn't sit with me. So I'm gonna imagine like a new name that fits for me.
I
Um,
love,
yeah. And I feel
I
like
love,
there's probably like, yeah, and I think like there's just some freedom in that, in having your own world. Like I like her, like we're in somebody else's imagination. So like I'm gonna create my own world that works for me and makes sense for me.
yeah, it's so important. I love that you shared that with your name because that's also, we don't have rituals anymore, and we used to have rituals around to understand what kind of like what part of you are of life you are right now. And now it's just like all capitalism based. So you go to school and then the ritual is that, all the ceremony that is telling you now you're an adult is that you graduate if you go to university even, but you should because it's better. And then you work your whole life, so there's no rituals in between, and then retirement, and then you die. And it's just like, all of us are just like, what? So I find that, with indigenous people, African people, there's so many rituals around becoming an adult. There's so many rituals around also, just when you're 16, for example, and you're starting to get into your age and what does it mean for you. And through those, a lot of like rituals that I've seen, for example, with indigenous people, African people, you get to choose your own name. There's even like, for example, rituals that when you get to have a child, you become a parent, you get a new name, or you get scars on your face, on your body. Like there's so many rituals. Tattoos also are rituals, you know. Now we use them differently, but they used to, and you can still do that. So I felt that creating rituals to just understand like, oh, this is who I am now, and I'm also allowed to change, because guess what, we're always changing, is so important. And just having basically body autonomy, right? Like changing your name, deciding for your own self how you identify, what is your name. It's so crazy that we're asking that and people are like, what do you mean, you know? And yet it's such a you see how people like react to that. It's so interesting to see that when you decide I want to have ownership over my own selves, people feel so like just angry about it, right? It's just so interesting to see that. So it just also kind of shows you like how we're supposed to like fit. And the more you kind of also get out of those things, the situations like gender and everything, and you get into like, oh, how do I want to be, how do I want to dress, how do I want to have sex, how do I want to, like all of those things, you also realize that actual normal quote unquote people, it's also such a performance, right? Like gender is such a performance, you know.
Yeah.
Whiteness is a performance too. Like all of those things, you realize, oh, that's just like some kind of codes that people invented because they were really, really insecure, you know, and they wanted to create some kind of like power over a situation. So, you know, when you get out of that too, you realize like actually you are performing, because I'm not. I'm just being myself, you know, and that makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah, I definitely am starting to see that now as I'm like progressing more and being comfortable in my journey. It definitely feels like, oh, the other part was the performance, like the pretending like I wasn't non-binary, the pretending that I wasn't queer. Like that was a performance. Like that was so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, and it's so hard to keep up, and you feel like an imposter too, you
Yeah.
know? And once you're in it, I was talking to my friend today, and I was just like, that's so funny, those things. You know, I was raised as a Black girl, you know, and I will always, you know, claim this identity because, you know, I was raised like a Black girl. And I was saying to my friend how it was so funny for me to see that for a long time, people were just like, you're not girly enough, whatever the case might be. And I never understood.
Yes.
And once I said, like, you're right, I'm not a girl, they were like, yes, you are, girl. And it's just like, I don't get it, y'all. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
So it's just you realize that also those, you know, borders they move all the time, you know, and just like before you kind of learn that, for example, white Jewish people were not seen as white, and now they're seen as white, or Italian people were not seen as white. Like all those things, they always move, you know, to the discretion of people who are oppressing, not the people who want to choose for themselves. So that's so interesting also to see the reaction of people around that.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think I like the idea of like having more rituals, more check-ins like around like where are you in your journey? It reminds me of like mourning rituals that people used to
Mm-hmm.
have, you know, like you wear black for like a whole year or you know, it's like it's marking a point in your life and you're like I'm no longer the same after this and I'm figuring out what I am after this. Like there used to be so many more rituals around like giving ourselves time to understand where we are and like processing where we are. And I think, yeah, it's so true. Like we're just like, just keep working, just keep pretending like everything is normal, like don't change, and then just like retire and that's it.
Yeah, and it's impossible because again, we're just living organisms that are constantly changing, and people are more and more, you know, they want to have more and more, you know, healing situations, rituals, ceremonies, because like, for example, COVID was such a big example of that. It's like we're, you know, going through something in a way that is like so big and impactful. And we need those spaces. Every time I have workshops, I see this, that people are so searching for the spaces to like have those conversations. How do you relate to one another? How do you relate to your body? How do you relate to blackness? How do you relate to transness? How do you relate to sex? Like all of those things, we need each other to be witnessed. Like being witnessed and seen is one of the most powerful thing ever by other people for who we are. We're just craving that so much, you know. And once you give that, it's so simple. It doesn't take money, you know. It's so good to see people relate to each other this way. Yeah, so yeah, rituals and ceremonies are just, I love them. I
I know.
wish we had more situations of grief and all of that. It was more seen as this public, you know, need for us to witness those things together.
Yeah, it's so true. Because, like, even in Judaism, we have like a whole ritual for mourning. Like, it has its own name. It's called like sitting Shiva.
Uh,
Like, it goes for like 2 weeks. Like, and then you're not supposed to do anything. Like, you're supposed to be in your home, and your community members come to you. They bring you food. They talk to you,
wow.
do all this. Like, and because of just like, capitalism, a lot of people aren't afforded the ability to take off, anymore. And so they can't even give their body and their mind and all that stuff that space, not only to honor, like, an ancient like custom, but to like honor what you're feeling and to feel that support from the community. Like, there's tons of rituals like that I feel like are just missing or like not practiced anymore because of like modernity, I guess, or like modern capitalism. So I agree with you. Like, I wish there was more space and time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I wish that it was like that. Unfortunately, we have absolutely no space to, yeah, make the space for our waters to flow. And it's just, that's part of so the problem that we keep things inside for so long and then it shows up in different ways.
Yeah. So I'm curious, if you have advice for people, like, for honoring change, for honoring transitions, like, how can we like strive to do that more or make that more of a like a priority so we can feel like, I feel like we'll feel more like whole and supported if we do that. But
Mhm. One of the things that I always say is that being witnessed again is so important. I think we crave really to be witnessed. And of course, that doesn't have to be human beings. It can be, you know, the trees that you always pass by next to your house and that you have a relationship with. Um, Creating ceremonies and rituals, it doesn't have to be like big. It can just be like light up a candle for yourself and, you know, write a note to yourself or whatever the case might be in front of your altar and your ancestors or whoever you want to have at your ceremony. I think ceremony, the difference with habits is just that it's like a habit made with intention. So you can literally jump into a lake and make this like a ceremony or ritual for yourself. Um, that's why it's so beautiful. You can make a tea just right now and make it a ceremony for yourself. So that I would say is really important is that it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to like include a lot of money. It's just really to your liking. Whatever you want to do is really important to check in with you. Um, and also one of the things that I always say to people is that just don't make it like complicated. You don't have to like, you know, the wellness industry sometimes is just like so boring with like buy this and yeah, and it's just like no, just do something simple that you makes your, you know, waters move and if it's like, you know, buying all your favorite snack from childhood and, you know, just light up a candle and eat all of them, do that. Like, I'm such a supporter of that. Do exactly that, but just make sure that, you know, checking in with you. What does that mean for you to do a ritual and going through transitions? And again, it's really important to be witnessed by people. So if you have safer spaces to be witnessed, people that you can talk to, do that. Create a council with your friends of like, you know what, like it's 2022 and in 2023, I want us to talk back to my year when it comes to my relationships or my health or whatever. I want us to witness each other. And I do this with my friend and it's amazing. You know, we just have councils about each other's relationships or whatever. And it's not about like, oh, this person is trash. It's not about that. It's about what are you looking into like why this relationship, what is the thing that is reminding you about your childhood or um how does it make you feel, you know, all of those things. And it's just so incredible to do that with friends and be witnessed. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I love all of those. Yeah. I try and tell people not to make it so complicated either. I think I like that you're saying it's literally just a thing that we do, but with intention. Like that's as complicated as it needs to be.
Yeah.
So anything could be a ritual. Yeah, I see like the possibilities. Like I'm like seeing visuals of like different things that we can do and to make it more of a ritual. And I feel like not only is it going to help us to honor like where we are, but like coming from like that like trauma healing, like I feel like it helps to include make ourselves feel like we're including all of ourselves, because I think like we're taught
Mhm.
to like disconnect from our body, disconnect from like our inner child, our ego, like all these different things, you know. And so it's like really including them in that piece. So like we're doing this amazing thing, or like we're celebrating a milestone, or we're changing our viewpoint on this. Like it's a space for like all parts of you to like come together and like
Absolutely.
be intentional. I like that a lot. So for the last bit, I wanted to ask you a bit about like your deck and that you're making, and like if you want to just like talk about what it's about and explain it to people.
Sure, 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 sure. So, I don't know if you want me to show visuals or if you want me
Yeah,
to,
if you have it, like, and you want to put some
sure.
things on the screen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, this is my first tarot deck. Whoo, this is so much stress, y'all, but it's worth it. No, but so this is my first tarot deck. I've basically started working on it last February, I would say now. I can show you here.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll just try and scroll as you're talking, I guess.
Yeah, so the cards are just below if you scroll, I think. Yes, here it is. So those are the cards. And yeah, so I basically started, to be honest, I was in a very difficult time and space in my life. And also, the last 2 years, I don't even know at this time, y'all, like lifetimes have been complicated. Okay. And so I find that connecting to people, those all the people that you see on the cards, have been basically our ancestors. So people who have transitioned, I found them through archives of different museums and exhibition places.
Mm.
Um, a lot of them also are people that we know, Black ancestors that we know that have been famous or have added so much to the culture in different ways. And so yeah, I basically started this project because I think it was also such a healing thing for me to, 2020 arrived and I was just like, I want out. You know what? Like, I just want to be out of this fucking planet Earth. This is ghetto out here. Like, I just want to be out. And I think tapping to one, the stars. So I'm an astrologer, but also tapping into ancestry and all. I realized, and it's very also, this practice of tapping into this. I think it's a book. What is it called again? Um, I always forget the name. But you can tap into like everything that has been already done and said in different. I always forget the name. Whatever.
The
Maybe
Akashic records or something?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So it felt to me like, oh my God, like there's a huge amount of ancestors, Black ancestors that have transitioned and that are here that I can talk to at any given time. And so during this time, when George Floyd was murdered, for me, it was just so important to tap into those ancestors and just be like, I just need your support. It's really complicated for me to be here at this time. And so just to tap into this, I've seen so many ancestors through those different archives, and it was just so healing for me. Some images were just really disturbing and hard to see, but
Mm.
some of them are just so healing to know that those people were here and they're still here. And I also find myself really connecting to them through doing this deck. Like it was just, I felt really close to me, and
Mm.
um, those are the ancestors that I find myself, they're part of me also, even if we're not quote unquote blood related. So um yeah.
Yeah, this is so cool. The imagery is like I love decks that are like collaged.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that like I'm super picky because I like went to art school and stuff. So I'm like, I want it to look a certain way. Like whenever I'm thinking about like my deck and stuff. And I love like how clean and like crisp, but like seamless, like everything goes together. And like it's so rich in imagery that like people are going to like find so much to connect with too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are so good. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing. So is your deck currently out or is it like, yeah.
So basically, it has been picked up by publisher Flower Press. So in the US, I'm a European babe, but Europe is late. Ready. They're not ready for me, I think. So yeah, I've been picked up by this US publisher, Flower Press, and it will be out soon. Like I'm thinking October, perhaps. It would be great because the astrology is great also in October for me. But yeah, this fall potentially. So yeah, subscribe to my newsletter for free if you want to know when it's gonna be out. And yeah, I'll make sure also Flower Press you can follow on Instagram. Myself, I'm sure you will see it being out. Yeah.
And so the deck that you made, is it designed to be used as like a traditional tarot or is it like oracle?
So it's based on, Pamela's work, of course. She's definitely one of the ancestors that I'm thinking of also when creating this deck, of course. But the only difference is that I have included the elements, so fire, air, water, earth, and spirit. So
Okay.
you have those cards, but you can take them away if you want to have 78, like traditional tarot deck. But it is meant to be just used as traditional tarot deck, yes.
Nice. I love that. I'm really excited to purchase it when it comes out. It's so stunning.
Thank you.
And yeah, so where can people find you? How can people work with you if you have anything coming up besides your deck that's coming out, which is like such a huge accomplishment in and of itself?
I have so many things going on with like I'm doing too much and I'm being underpaid if you ask me. But yeah, I'm actually training at this moment to become a full spectrum doula. Also, I feel like full spectrum care is my thing. My interest is really to serve again Black families, trans families, because again they're always undercared for, and I really want to help people bring those families, those trans, families. That's such a dream for me. Yeah, you can contact me. My website is selflovetribute.com. Self-love tribute on all platforms. I don't have Twitter because I'm not this kind of gal. um, what else? I feel like yeah, this tarot deck is gonna be out soon. I'm gonna come to the US for the first time for activation residency to be a care practitioner there. I'm really excited. I've never come to the US before, so know. And what else? I feel like that's quite it. I'm open to see people 101. And I'm doing a lot of workshop at the moment, but it's mostly in Europe, obviously in Berlin. So yeah, if you are in Berlin, come to the workshops. It's amazing. You meet amazing people. Um, and yeah, I think that's quite it. I'm writing a book also on the four elements, fire, water, earth, and what they teach us about care. um, yeah, I think that's it. That's a lot already,
Yeah,
but
you're
that's
doing so many things. I love it. I'm the same way. Like I like to do 70 things at once and like just being able to switch my focus when one is feeling the inspiration. Yeah, and thank you for coming on. I don't know what time it is there. I hope it is a decent time.
it's okay. It's 9 p.m. It's really okay. So I'm
Okay.
happy to end my day with you, to be honest, to have a nice conversation with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm excited to like see what comes forward with all the new stuff going on in your life. And until next time, everyone, goodbye. If you love Witchy and Weird podcasts, support us by donating monthly for as little as 99 cents at anchor.fm/witchyandweird/support. You can cancel at any time and 100% of the proceeds go directly to the pod. Or if you don't want to commit to a monthly donation, buy Amanda a coffee at ko-fi.com/wishyandweird to help fuel them while they record, edit, create, and upload content for the podcast. And if you're feeling extra generous, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and tell your witchy and weird friends about us too. Bye!